recorded today, but hello everybody and welcome to Truth Tuesday and welcome to the show. I am Jean Gray. I am here hosting the Truth, Beauty, Freedom, and Love show. And today we're going to talk a little bit about astro and how astrology relates to something called the gene keys. I'm not sure if any of you guys are familiar with the gene keys, but I'm going to tell you guys all about it, as well as some of my own personal prejudices against both the gene keys and Jean Gray, and how I moved across that, or rather moved past it, and learned a bit more about myself in learning how to do that. So I'm going to fill you in on all of that kind of stuff today. So welcome to the show. I'm Rachel Zeeb, and I love cosplaying as characters that have actually taught me a lot about myself and aspects of myself. So I like to put on certain characters when we're talking about certain stories, and I also do astrology, neurolinguistic astrology, which is a fusion of astrology itself, right, which is an ancient practice, as well as neurolinguistic. I keep on calling it neurolinguistic astrology, so I'm so used to calling it that, but NLP is neurolinguistic programming, and so it's more about the words and the structure by which we communicate with each other. So, hey Pikachu, Pika Pika, welcome, welcome. So, I did a Jean Grey cosplay last night with my hubby Wolverine. And I was supposed to be a pre music show before I read you guys a comic book, but I was so tired last night, and yesterday was also my 10-year wedding anniversary to my hubby, so happy 10 years to us. But I thought to myself, I'm like, what a great way, like, it's a new day, it's a new dawn, I'm going to fuse my different shows together, so my cosplay with my astrology, because Jean Grey herself, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her as a character, so I'll give you guys some background. I know my my good friend to the show, Voice of One, Joe, if you're watching this on either side channel, you can catch me on YouTube as well. I actually have a screen share of the chart, but no worries, I have a visual representation for you guys on TikTok as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a chart reading of the everlasting now. I'm going to go into the gene keys of today, and then I'm going to give you guys some resources by which you can look up your own gene keys. And then I'll explain NLP, right? NLP is like, how should I put it? Like, you are like the main character in your storybook of life. And imagine this is like a big RPG game. And RPG games are very much focused on story, right? So what that means is, oh my gosh, my bangs are, oh, and I just want to make sure I'm saying hello to everybody. Hey, Steven, Zenergy, Oscily. So I'm streaming live on both TikTok and through Beam, as well as on Twitch and YouTube right now. So this is the day show. The day show, I typically like to do astro readings and readings as a whole in terms of reading the energies that are at hand right now. Give me just a second. I'm going to grab my visual for you guys. Oh, I need some music here. My hubby's DJing, so it's going directly to, maybe I'll get him on. I had a day show. I just started JWT. I've just started my day show. My day show is going to be primarily focused on astrology, because play Star Wars Darth Vader. Am I Darth Vader? Oh, play that game, I hope you mean. Papasaurus. Wait, Papasaurus 6? Is that how you say it? Anyways, regardless, I have to get through a lot, you guys. So later today, I will be doing a comic book read. I think I'll be doing Batgirl, because I'll be hosting a monthly full moon cosmic comic book club meeting, where we basically go over comic books that we've already read before, but then we go into an analysis of it. Because when it comes to astrology, you guys, the way a good way to interpret it is by thinking of it as a story. So I like to think of the chart as kind of like I'm gonna flip to this other screen. One moment, friends. I have like my camera 1, camera 2. Welcome to the live. Actually, first, let me introduce you to your host for today, Jean Grey, Omega level psychic, one of the original X-Men. I read the stars. Oh yes, June 13th, 1992. Oh my goodness. Okay, you're Pluto and Scorpio, I think, still too. We'll get to you in just a second. Hold that thought. Okay, I was born in 1985. So I am turning 40 years old this year. And so my granny, she's not also turning 40, she's turning 100 years old. So myself and my granny, she's from South Africa, right? So we talked a lot about apartheid in South Africa, how my father, who he's now retired, he was a professor in computer science, but he had to go to the University of Illinois in Chicago because South Africa at the time did not allow people who weren't white into universities, which, that's a whole other thing. But in Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I'm 40 and I'm really happy to be 40, right? My childhood was really, really rough for many reasons that I'm not going to get into right now. But I mean, we all have our trials and tribulations. And I will say that I have all my mushies behind me, magic mushies, because I had a breakthrough experience about 2020, I think it was 2020 that this happened. And I was still working corporate at the time. But anyways, my husband is also my shaman. He's also a DJ. But I went through this breakthrough magic mushroom experience, and I remembered a near-death experience that I had when I was 3. So I'm just telling all of you guys this just because overall, us as human beings, when we talk about psychic powers, like Jean Grey, in the context of the X-Men, and this is why I love X-Men, X-Men are still human, right? Like, I guess they're technically called Homo superior, but specifically they're human. Like, unlike Supergirl, they're not aliens. They are from Earth, right? It's a genetic thing. So that's why I'm talking about gene keys and stars and the confluence of those ideas today, right? So, for example, I used to work in the hospital here in Toronto not at Toronto General, but I used to work on top of the emergency room. I worked in diabetes. Frederick Banting, who's from Toronto, has said that he was inspired to understand insulin through a dream, right? So why am I talking about dreams and intuitions and near-death experiences and all of that? It's because the mystical realm and what we perceive as science is not necessarily so disparate. So when it comes to Jean Grey, she first discovered her powers. She's an Omega level psychic, and so if you're not familiar with the X-Men are they're mutants, right? And they're in the Marvel universe. I know that in DC they refer to anyone with any kind of mutation as like a metahuman, but that's semantics. That's copyright, I believe. That's a bunch of other things as well. We'll disregard that, put a little bookmark it, and we'll come back to it. But Jean Grey is a psychic. Her father actually is a professor. Jean Grey's father, is a professor who is Professor X's professor at Baird College. Why am I saying this? It's because there's this level here of Jean Grey that I relate to where it's like this goody two-shoes, kind of like overly nerdy science fair project, top of the class, straight A student situation where that's the thing, right? Depending on what superhero trajectory you're on, different challenges will be presented to you, which will enable you to grow. And what I believe that the stars do for all of us is that depending on your chart, you're going to have a setup of all the different planets that are going to give you cue points as to your personal story. It's also just knowing about like where you are in the story, right? I've been through very like dark moments in my life, and it's about, I always like reference the two towers in Lord of the Rings, right? Where you're like Helm's Deep and it all seems lost, but help is just around the corner and Gandalf is coming down with backup. Alan Callie, that's a great segue into reading the future, because what does it mean to read the future? And I was talking about gene keys earlier, and I'm going to talk to you guys about my prejudice about intel and something you guys can maybe bring some openness of thought into your own life, which will help give you some key understandings to self, right? Okay, how should I put this? So I have my friend Aria, who you guys have been on the show before. We have a show together called Today's Harmonics, because when it comes to like associating with the cosmic clock, I find that we're very trapped in this very Gregorian calendar, right? When I was working in corporate, you had, 9 to 5, and you had, which of course, if you worked in project management, you didn't do 9 to 5. You're working at like crazy hours all the time, and you didn't get paid for overtime, whatever. Anyways, besides the point. You worked, 7 day, like you worked Monday to Friday. But of course, when you're dealing with global time zones, I used to be a global relationship manager in digital. And so I had meetings with like Taiwan and Japan and like different time zones. And to try to coordinate, let's say London with Australia, with Toronto, it's going to be inconvenient for someone. So compromises have to be made. And so it's a matter of like, what is time anyways, right? So I used to get like emails at like 3 a.m. from South Africa. So it's just about like mapping where you are in the story. So being aware that perhaps us as human beings do not work best 9 to 5, and then also just realizing what works best for you. And so luckily enough for me, I worked in many different workplaces that had a flexible way of adjusting your schedule. So I was a really big early bird. I used to come into I've always loved coming into the office early, like when it's quiet, no one's there to bug me. I can get all my emails done, get everything done, and then I would love to leave by like 3 p.m., 4 p.m. I hated staying at the office late. Of course, you have to sometimes, right? And it's all about this balance between doing what must be done and also having the space to play as well. Okay, so let's get into the chart reading of the now. Actually, let me go into the genes. Oh, hey, Jaco. Okay, so the genes and the gene keys. I'm going to talk about my prejudice to Jean Grey at first. So the X-Men. I first learned about the X-Men watching the 90s TV show animated series growing up. I grew up in Winnipeg, and so I forget what channel it was on. Oh, it's Saturday morning cartoons. I used to love it. And like, did you guys know that all the voice actors are based in Toronto? We're based in Toronto, at least the old 90s voice actors. Amazing. Aurora Monroe, Storm's voice from that original 90s, that will forever be Storm to me. That same, like, goddess voice. Oh, Papa Sir 6, you're from Toronto. Hey, I'm in Toronto right now, currently, too. There's a lot of magical stuff in Toronto. Like, for example, Joe Shuster is from Toronto, and he co-created Superman. My name is Gambit, remember it. F. Dave. Oh, yes. Gambit, do you have your Rogue? Rogue and Gambit are probably one of my favorite couples. And of course, we're in Love Month right now, so I love to give my ode to that. Rotten Pumpkins. I'm originally from Winnipeg, and I moved to Toronto in 2007. A while now, right? I'm too young for Saturday. I am not too young for Saturday morning cartoons. Are you kidding me? I loved Saturday morning cartoons. Like YTV, I used to dream about coming out to Toronto, you guys, when I was in Winnipeg. You guys in Toronto, you did not know how good you had it. I was like, I can't believe you can just walk down Queen Street and like literally just like Speaker's Corner and all that kind of stuff. F. Dave, yes it is. I want to go back home. I'm probably heading back to the prairies very soon, my friends. Rotten Pumpkins, I will take that as a beautiful compliment. I'm very much older than 24. But I grew up fast, right? But I give credence. Thank you so much to all of the creators of these characters that I have fallen in love with, because when times were really dark for me, I went into my inner imagination self and I had Storm to help me out. I had like Supergirl to help me out, Batgirl as my best friends growing up when I had no one, right? So, but then you realize they're all you, and your imagination is a powerful thing, and your mind is very resilient, so that even when you go through dark times, you can protect yourself. But it's also awareness of what you went through when you become old enough to revisit it and strong enough to revisit it. And I've done a lot of inner child healing, guys, and like a lot of realizations that me now turning 40, I have become the hero that my 8-year-old self always knew I would be, right? And someone's like, tell myself that, I'm like, don't worry, Rach, because we influence the past, right? It's not what we think like linear, right? We only perceive linear time, but we don't realize like we are dreaming our ancestors right now, right? So I encourage you guys to dream a beautiful dream, and Jean Grey, for example, I had a lot of prejudice, as I said. I first found out about like X-Men through the animated 90s show, right? And I never liked Jean Grey. I was like, oh my gosh, why is she so perfect and annoying? And like, why does everyone like her, right? Like, and I had a big crush on Cyclops. And so it's just like, ugh, he loves Jean so much. Like, why? Julia Awaken. Oh, namaskar. Oh, thank you. Hey, Return of the Magi, or the turn. I keep on reading yours as Return of the Magi, so I'll put it that way. Okay, so one being to another, I see you guys, though. I want you guys. I had a near death experience when I was 3. I'll put that to the side for just a second because, as I said, I found Jean Grey really annoying when I was growing up, being like, ugh, why does everyone like her? And she's so perfect and all that kind of stuff. So I encourage you guys to look at things that you find annoying in other characters and realize that it's like a mirror for us. And so I've realized all the stuff about Jean Grey I found annoying were almost like characteristics about my own personality that I was like, oh, that is annoying. But also like can't be helped on some regard, right? Because I was valedictorian, right? I got like highest grades in my class. I won like awards for science fairs on electromagnetic radiation stuff. I went back to to Winnipeg and picked up a lot of my old studies because when you do corporate world, working project management, working a lot of hours, you don't have time for your own esoteric studies and trying to figure the world out, right? There's no time for that. You've got all the fires to put out. I am a new superhero, and I'm here as Jean Grey to call out to all of you inner children out there who still believe in superheroes, that still believe that there is a force of good out there, right? There is a force of benevolence that is protecting you, right? And even though things do feel hard sometimes, trust that you are given this life because you are strong enough to live it, right? And trust that there is help just around the corner. You just gotta hold on because it's taken me like 4 years to get my shit together to be able to do this, right? So, okay, so Jean Grey, I had prejudice because of that, and then only recently have I realized that I really love Jean Grey, and I learned a lot about her character. For example, she first awakened to her powers because Jean's psychic powers are linked to empathy. And so I open this up to all of you as humanity, right? Any humanity, like when you watch a movie and you feel compassion for a character, or you like you start to cry because you're like, oh my gosh, I also have gone through that. Or you listen to a love song and you're like, it's like I feel that in like a chord inside my being. So that is a level of psychic power, right? Because you're reaching out into the great mind of all, the great heart of all, right? Because myself and Arya talked about how Emma Frost and Jean Grey are both psychics, but they are different psychics. Emma Frost is a high, very powerful mental psychic, whereas Jean Grey is a very powerful, empathetic psychic. And so those are both mental, right? Just like how emotions are also mental, but there are different lenses by which you are like working with energies, right? Yeah. Are we talking about Marvel characters? We are talking about Marvel characters, and I'm talking about them in terms of like archetypes and astrology to help help you guys realize that you don't have to believe in astrology for you to realize it's just another language by which, and if you understand Marvel movies, if you understand stories, then you understand astrology, right? And if you can interpret what story and what part of the story you're in, you can also then predict the future, right? Because you know how there's a certain level of predictability when it comes to stories, just like a song, right? Once you know the first chorus, you can kind of guess how the second chorus is going to go. But then perhaps when you have the ending part, the chorus is going to like repeat or echo out. So there's beats of what will happen during a first cycle that will reoccur in another cycle. But what I think astrology does, what I feel astrology does is a realization of where we are in certain cycles and where we are in certain cosmic beats in the grand opera and music. I think it's musical theater, right? Even how we line up the chart and I'll get into the gene keys I think after we do the planets, because the astrology for today, time is always happening, right? Because when you do your birth chart, the chart that you have is very uniquely yours, even down to the minute, because when you think about your rising sign, your ascendant, that's what lines up the entire housing system. So for example, typically Aries does rule the first house, but if your ascendant is in Leo, you're going to have that first house ruled by Leo, right? So it's a matter of realizing where you are and what your particular starseed blueprint is, because it gives you some intel as to what superhero you are too. Because can you imagine, like, if you, like, let's say you had a psychic power, right? And psychic powers can be very different, right? You can have clairvoyance or mental abilities where you can like make something float, or you can walk through wall. Like, so these can all express in very different ways. So it's about knowing which one you were meant to do. Because can you imagine if Storm was trying to do Jean Grey's powers and vice versa? And no one's going to argue that they're both very powerful very powerful mutant women, but it's being aware of what unique gifts are yours so that you can then practice them too, because talent takes practice too. My favorite is Black Widow. I love Black Widow too. Alex, Heaven Star Power. Let's host after I go through the astro. I've been basically going off on a tangent, and I've been more attuned with my own intuitive powers very recently. I spent a lot of my life under hormonal birth control, and only recently, because me and hubby want to have a baby very soon, and so it's coming off of that and realizing all the different ways in which, like, the truth doesn't shout, it whispers. So it's just a little bit about that. Okay, let's go into the chart reading. And just to let you guys know, I almost like to interpret this as like a stage, right? So if any of you guys have done theater, or if you're lighting a stage, JWT, thanks you guys. I gotta get out of the city first though, right? I don't really want to have babies in the city. So, okay, so we basically have the chart. I'm gonna have it here. And all the different glyphs here are the different planets. So when you're born, you're going to have all of the different planets sitting in wherever is unique for you. So let me just take a look. I have this on YouTube as well. What is the sign on thing? This is the astro chart of the now. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I have the screen share for it. But because I like doing TikToks this way, that's what it is. Okay, so all right, so the big thing happening in the stars right now is all of the activation in our dream world. So we do have stuff shifting into Aries, but it's like that cusp between it's very Phoenix Force, right? Creation and destruction. So that part where we're in between places, right? The change. This can have a lot of creativity behind it, a lot of inspiration to be had in the stars right now. So what's happening in Pisces is we have Saturn and Neptune and the North Node, which is like not something I have a glyph for, but I'm going to put Saturn. Let me actually first make sure this chart is doing what it's supposed to be doing for me to line it up. So I like to think of like this this chart, and even the astro chart in general, for your own sake, is like split down the center is like front stage and backstage. So typically these houses down here are your front stage and your main personality, your main personality planets. And all the planets that are sitting on your own personal chart are like the players in your own essences, like your own inner world. Because think about it this way, when you are having a dream and you're not astral traveling, for example, you are creating all the characters in that dream. It's like no different when I'm writing a story or I'm writing a short skit or a play. I, for a moment, am all the characters in that play as I'm creating those dialogue, or anyone who's making comic books. You for a moment are all of those characters, or even when you're reading about them, you bring those stories to life. You're the magic in all of it, right? Don't give too much credit away, right? Okay, so we've got Saturn is in Pisces and so is Neptune. So these are big titans. This is Lord of Time and Karma, as well as the Lord of the Unseen Kingdom, both hanging out in the dream world sign. So there's this levels, the names of the signs. Oh, yes. So we're going from Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, oh my gosh, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and then Pisces. And so the housing system also lines up as well to that. But as I said to you guys, you're going to have your own personal rulership of each house. Like, for example, my 12th house is ruled by Aries, and I have a lot of activity in the 12th house, but it's in the sign of Aries. So it's this level for me. I call myself a dream warrior, right? This level of, I used to with my friends, if you have nightmares, I create safe houses in the dreams, right? And dream dragons, like protections for your dreams. I recommend any of you guys don't have Wi-Fi close to your head when you're sleeping, because you're very open psychically at that time. So just or even putting like a precious stone like quartz underneath your pillow, or amethyst under your pillow when you're dreaming. These are just ways of like just giving you some psychic armor in the dream spaces, and just being aware of just how powerful your imagination is. And even when I was watching Batman Forever, right, where like the Riddler is trying to like steal everyone's dream juice. Jim Carrey's a great Riddler, by the way. There's something to that, right? Where like our dream space, our dream juice, there's tremendous value to that. Kenneth, hey Aries. Oh, love that. My sister is an Aries as well. I play real crime podcasts in my ear while I sleep. You know what? Maybe because you're solving them in the dream world, J-Max. Because I think some of you guys are like that archetype of a private investigator, right? Or one of those like, I'm going to figure out this case. Or cold cases, that kind of thing. So J-Max, I think there are many of us who do work in the dreamland or the dreamscape that I think being lucid in that is, because like sometimes I think like you wake up and you're not allowed to remember what you dreamed about, and then you almost like remember it like months later, and you're like, wait a minute, I remember I had a dream about this. Hey Cesar Lopez, how's it going? The one character I related to is Raven and Starfire. Ooh, good choices. I have a Starfire cosplay in the works, actually, because both Starfire and Batgirl have a relationship with Nightwing. How come, Red Pro? Is there a reason particularly? Raven I like a lot because it's like I like cosplaying as Dark Phoenix. It's this, like some of the more dark characters that help you play with those aspects of yourself. Oh, hey, Triton the Aussie Collie. Thank you for that. Okay, so continuing on with the star reading of today, we have the North Node. I don't have a glyph for the North Node, but that is also hanging out in Pisces right now. I keep moving this around. Okay. I'm going to put this here to the side. So we basically have the North Node. I don't have a glyph for it. The North Node also is known as Rahu, and the South Node is known as Ketu. So these are known as the head of the dragon and the tail of the dragon. And they are lunar nodes. They're mathematical points that are based on where the moon is sitting. And they move every, I think it's like 16 months. But in your own personal chart, thank you, Triton the Aussie Collie, by the way. Thank you. If in your own personal chart, the North Node is like a node of destiny. It's like the head of the dragon. It's where you're going. It's your waypoint in the game of life, like this life, and being like, okay, this is where I'm going. These are the skills I need to do. And figuring out where the North Node sits is kind of like figuring out a little bit directionality as to where you're trying to push your energies as far as it is to your soul mission. Hey Cheyenne, welcome. Nice to see you. Okay, so the North Node for all of us as a collective soul family is right on that cusp between Pisces and Aries. This is like the omega degree of everything. This is where like true raw inspiration and creativity lie. So for all of us as a human family, there's a lot to be harnessed here if you just like reach out and kind of grab it and take it for yourself. We also do have, oh, Venus is right there too. I love you, Venus. And Venus in all of us represents love, beauty, relationships. And having it right there as well is that we are going to deem a lot of like power in relationships, right? And being a good friend, in keeping your word, all the things that go into cultivating and harnessing the power of a good relationship. Because I like to say this, like, we have like social media and you have like friends on social media, but like and you and dancing DJ girl. Oh yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, I love that. What is Scorpio? Oh, so Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. Um, you know what? That's why you like Raven and Starfire. Scorpio is very much like power is power, baby, and like living on the extremes. I love you and then I hate you, and like passionate. There's no in between with Scorpio, and I have two planets in Scorpio. My Saturn is in Scorpio and my Pluto's in Scorpio, and so that can be very intense. But I think the challenge of scorpionic placements can be, if things don't go exactly the way you need it to or the way you envision it to, you're like, goodbye. Out with you. Cut it all off. Burn it all. But sometimes it doesn't need to be that way. However, what we have right now is a very raw form of creative energy for all of us. And so I encourage all of you guys, I said this last time when I was talking about the readings, and I think it still stands, to journal and find ways of bringing back whatever you are conceiving of in the dream world, right? The land of causes, the land of the imagination, the place you go to when you daydream or you dream, where, when you're in a dream, like everything feels so real and you jump into it and you're like, you already kind of know everything that's happening. You don't need someone to explain everything before or after. You're just like in it. And I feel like sometimes we get trapped by this reality because it's so dense, right? It can take a while for your inspiration, your ideas to finally come into form. It takes a lot more effort and energy. However, I do feel, and this is the feeling that I've gotten from my own dream worlds, Rotten Pumpkins, there's a reason why I don't have a lot of people in my lives. There's a reason for that, trust me. And I'll get into that later, because I'm 40, right? And I was like lying in hiding for a while with my idea of my book, because it was almost like I was waiting for tech to hit a certain level to be accessible, where I wouldn't need a major studio or a major publishing house to be able to do it. I could do it myself. But with the AI, with all this stuff where, like, I feel for Elvis, right? And I feel for like certain beautiful talents like Whitney Houston, where it's like, you are the talent, you are the voice, and yet it just gets taken over by like the studio or like these big, like, what are they? What is that? Like, how come Whitney Houston doesn't get to have every single dime of her, what fair value, whatever it is for her voice to be heard, right? Oh, that's really, really sweet, Rotten Pumpkins. I have only very recently, though, you guys, finally felt free to speak my voice. My throat chakra has been so blocked. I've been under like an evil spell for like seriously, I really have been. I've only broken it very recently through a lot of inner work. And so my encouragement is to all of you who feel like, oh my gosh, why is this always happening to me? And like go back to your source, and like, because all that will matter going forward, based on the stars and based on everything from what I know, is this, like, you have to be truly you and truly authentic. Trying to be anyone else right now will not work, and it will hurt, because I know, because I tried. You know, you try to do things the old way and you're like, but this worked last time, right? Like, why isn't it doing it? Like, because we are changing. And I'm a Taurus, right? I have a hard time changing directions really like abruptly. Like, oh my gosh, like, even though like I've stayed in relationships, even like friendships, right? That are not good for you, where like with friendships like these, who needs enemies, right? People who gossip about you or talk negative. You don't need to have that in your life. There are friends waiting for you who will be the right friends for you. And if you have the right friends in your life, you cherish those friends, right? Call them when you want to call them. Follow your intuition, your hunches a bit more. Learn how to interpret your signals of yourself to yourself. Like even the Bene Gesserit, who I love in Dune, right? Their magic comes from being able to speak to your endocrine system, speak to your hormones, speak to your body and your cellular structure in such a manner that you can tweak and adjust and like be like, oh, just a little bit more adrenaline here and a little bit of like more hormone here, maybe a little less estrogen, it can be watery here. But like just those tweaks, because you know, with the pharmaceutical industry, like the audacity of us to think that we have it all figured out. Like SSRIs to me baffle me. They were created in the 80s and I'm just like, I don't understand like how we think that we like I volunteered at a teen health clinic when I was in Winnipeg called Clinic with a K, and we used to do I used to be like a chaperone for women who were SA'd. We were talking about the astro, and I totally got on a tangent, but I'm just telling you guys to lean into your hunches. And I'm just saying that we do that by healing our relationship with our bodies, right? I used to spend a lot of time just hating the way my body looked. No, yeah. Well, thank you guys. And so when you guys tell me I'm beautiful, and I really do take those to heart, you guys, because I spent a lot of my life thinking I was ugly and I was fat and like all this, like all the horrible inner speak you could even think of, right? But I don't think that anymore. But I just mean to say that everyone on a personal level, your inner dialogue, the stuff you say to yourself matters. I used to have a saying to my clients that I would personal train, that your body hears everything that your mind says. So just be aware of what you're telling yourself, and you know, don't be afraid to root for yourself, you know, like be like, you got this, you know, I know this is tough right now, but this is gonna be okay. And that little pep talk to yourself in your head, like, it sounds crazy, but it does actually help. At least in my experience, it's helped. Okay, so other chart things that are happening in the stars right now. The moon is in Taurus. I'm a Taurus. Yay, Taurus. So the moon is your subconscious, your inner world, your inner child, your inner idea of things. So your inner mother, how your conception, your conception of what it is a mother is, right? So the moon is in Taurus. So all the things that Tauruses love, right? So Scorpios, do you know that Scorpio opposes Taurus? And you can find a lot of understanding about yourself through the opposition and through a mirror. So Scorpio and Taurus are both fixed signs, where Scorpio is in water, Taurus is in earth. However, they do get along, and also like Taurus is like personal finances, and Scorpio is like other people's money. Taurus is about the body, and Scorpio is more about like the energetic body, right? And more like the unseen stuff. So they are related but mirror each other, right? Like two wings of the same bird situation. So just like how I look at Scorpios as the opposite to Taurus, Scorpios should look at Taurus, right? And like you get understanding from that, right? A Gemini, oh my goodness, my moon's actually in Gemini. So you all as well, all of your sun signs, that's awesome. But I recommend all of you guys look up what your moon sign is. It can give you a lot of intel to yourself. And it can also be like, oh, I'm a Scorpio, but I don't always feel like a Scorpio. It could be because your moon is somewhere else, right? So I'm going to put moon in Taurus. This shifted again on me. I'm going to put this over here. Na, 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 na. Okay. My mom is a Scorpio. My mom's a Scorpio too, Oliver. That, like, it's crazy too, right? In our opposites, it can do a lot. It's like a battery, right? So you can get a lot of charge between those opposing signs. So if we don't realize that someone is a mirror to us, sometimes we can project and then we get into like fights where we don't really need to get into fights. But sometimes those fights are necessary. We just need to learn how to, like, I think, communicate more effectively about what we mean. Okay, so that's in Taurus, but this is shifted. So let me put this up to where this is supposed to be, because we have Saturn and Neptune in Pisces right now. So you guys should be having some really trippy dreams lately, especially you Scorpios. Scorpios should just naturally have trippy dreams. Also, all Scorpios, like, they're the detectives of the zodiac. I would call Batman a Scorpio, even though Batman's birthday is March 30th, apparently, and that would make him an Aries. But I bet you his moon's in Scorpio, if I had to guess. Okay, and so the moon is in Taurus, so we are going to gain emotional and inner child nourishment today from listening to songs that we love, to art that we love, old movies. I'm like the type of person, and this is because I'm a Taurus, like, I'll watch the same movie like 5 times or listen to the same song on repeat and like just like listen to it and like get what you need from it emotionally, right? Or like a good time to have, even with the other things, like have a good conversation with a good friend or catch up with someone you haven't meant to in a while, or, you know, reach out and tell someone you've been thinking about them, right? And they'll be like, you know what? I had a dream about you. I've been thinking about you too. So I think there's a lot of those synchronicities at hand in the cosmos, in the ether today, my friends. We also do have the big thing to talk about today is that Jupiter, and this is what we're going to do the card readings for. Jupiter is now stationed direct, and it is in Gemini, as well as we have oh my goodness, there's something else here. Black Moon Lilith is in Libra. We've got Mars in Cancer. We've got Uranus is also in Taurus still. That's financial things. I find financial stuff. Oh, yes. This is also currently going on to my YouTube as well. So it'll be in my live streams, but I'm doing a better job of organizing all of my content so that you can get them in a timely fashion. So yeah, no worries. Hyperproxy, thank you for that. Appreciate it. And as I said, I have Jean Grey on today because it's about being intuitive, feeling into things, right? I want you guys to realize that, you know, we always talk about like, oh, what are we in? Are we in like a matrix? What's real? What's not real? All this kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, hold up, take 2 seconds. Go out and hug your loved one. That's real, what you feel in that. Take a deep breath and like take in the scent of like warm apple pie after you bake it. That's real. All of these senses in your reality, that's real to you. You decide to make that real. Taxes, licenses, tariffs, even borders and countries, all of these things require our shared consensus belief to be real. And so I feel like all of us at a personal level, okay, I'll pay the fare, all that kind of stuff. We can do that and play, but we don't have to give as much conscious psychic power to it. We can give more of that to our relationships in being the best big sister ever, which I try to do all the time, in being the best wife, in being the best friend, in being keeping to your word. All of these things in the bigger game of life on the scoreboard, she notices. The great creator, mother, whatever your belief system is, the great power of good in the world knows, right? When you are doing your best, and knows when like things happen and you fail and you like made the wrong mistake or you lied or you did all this other stuff. Cool. Acknowledge it. Take your lickings if you need to, and then you do better, right? There is no failure in striving to an ideal, right? But realizing, like shoot for the moon, but if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars, right? But you still do need to have both eyes open, focus on the target, realize that what you are doing is worth something. It matters, right? Because the minute we start being like, oh, well, like, that doesn't matter, who's gonna notice? Trust me, I notice. Like all those little things, right? Ron, does my husband know astrology as well? You know what he puts it, how he says this? He and I are, we practice telepathy with each other when we do magic mushrooms together. When we do LSD together and stuff, we practice magic together. So I recommend you guys, like, no one's done it before, right? So, like, there's no handbook, no, like, manual on how to do this, how to activate your psychic powers. So you have to play, right? So play, something works. Like, oh my gosh, I figured it out. I gotta tell my friends. We gotta try this. I can show you how to levitate things, right? So I welcome all of you guys to play a lot more. Let yourself go into that wild imagination thing and just go like, wait a minute, thought experiment, you guys. What if this? And Jean Grey is the reason why she is so powerful. She became the host of the Phoenix Force, right? And the comic book I wanted to read you guys actually was one that I actually read you guys when I was back in Winnipeg, basically reintegrating my past self into myself. And it's integration, all that inner work, it sounds all like, oh, amazing. It's gross and dirty. And it's tough going through the dark night of the soul. But when you're at the end of it, it's like after the purge, after the sauna, and you sweat everything out, you're like, oh, I feel so much better. And like, now I can see clearly what I need to do. And you can also then give yourself the space to reconfigure yourself, right? And realize like, oh man, I've been like I went hiking once with my sister and my hubby here. Ontario has a lot of beautiful places. Like Tobermory is pretty gorgeous. And we didn't go to Tobermory to hike. We went to Lion's Head Lookout. And we went down this other path and we were walking. And I just had this sense of like, you guys, I think this is the wrong way. But if we kept on walking in that same direction, you would just get more lost. Just being like, oh, well, there's a path here. So we're like, okay, we don't know for sure. Let's double back to that main crux point and figure out where we are. So don't be afraid to do that, you guys. Don't be like, oh, well, I know where I'm going, and just get more and more lost walking wherever. And basically, oh my gosh, hubby's on with the music right now. I need to join him very soon, you guys. Why not look towards the cosmos and the stars, which our ancestors have done for millennia for guidance and support? And it's not about me as an astrologer telling you how to read your like how to interpret it. I'm just saying from my lens as someone who knows a lot of stories, I like to relate everything to comic books, right? So Jean Grey is a Scorpio. Her birthday, I forget exactly her birthday, but one of my kind viewers here sent me her birthday. Yes, we are the stars. We are made of star stuff, right? So when you wish upon a star, you wish upon yourself. And when you realize that, and that you are counting on you. I had this experience, you guys, when I had one of my very first breakthrough experiences, because Sailor Moon meant so much to me as a kid growing up. Me and my girlfriends all loved Sailor Moon so much. We used to play Sailor Moon at recess, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to switch this so it's story time here. But yeah, we used to play at recess. And so there's two parts of this story. I'm Jean Grey. But also, think of it this way. Rachel Summers, my name's Rachel Z, right? Rachel Summers is the daughter of Scott Summers and Jean Grey from the future, who comes back to the past to teach the ethics of time travel. And so I'm just like, oh, they are simply neurons within the mind of God, which is your mind at the top. I would also say, Rotten Tomatoes, that if we think about the chakra system, right? So you have like your root and your sacral, solar plexus, your heart, your throat, your third eye, and your crown. I wouldn't say your crown or your third eye are better, right? Or or more than your root or sacral chakras, right? In fact, the upper realms, like the realm of the ether and the gods, like look at us as almost like a comic book, and they gain such joy and understanding of self through us playing out the essences of what they are, because we're all of it too, right? So anyways, I'm not speaking about that. There's no way to language it. That's why we have art. So we strive for it. Okay. I forgot where I was going with the story. I wanted to get into the gene keys. So the gene keys are based on astrology. If you're curious about your gene keys, you can simply look up gene keys, spelt the way you have it, Res Illusions, gene with a Gene, right? And that's the funny thing about double entendres of names and stories, right? So Jean Grey, right? Gray aliens, genes, your genetic code, gene. So it's genes that I'm wearing. So all of these multi-meanings in words and the vibration of all of it, that means that like it's also resonating through multi-dimensions as we invoke it, as we speak it, which is why your throat chakra, right? Very important, right? As you intonate, ah, oh, ah, all that, how you say a word matters. How you pronounce a name matters. Like, Genie, genie in a bottle, wishes, miracles, magic. So, and also I find that a lot of the girls I like to cosplay have red hair. And red hair, right, typically, ancient times, like, has a lot of witchy connotations, right? And your hair and your relationship of your hair to being, your crown. And that's why Leos also have, anyone who's a Leo usually has great hair. My hairdresser was actually a Leo. It's kind of funny. And your mane. And also this idea that these are like antenna to the cosmos and are our little like light beam to getting all that information. Because where do thoughts come from? When an idea enters your mind, into your consciousness, where does that come from, right? And we are pulling down from the ether. Like, I never think to myself like my stories are my own. Oftentimes they are stories that the consciousness of humanity wants to tell. It's why you have stories that mirror each other in different cultures, right? In the Philippines, they actually, before the Spaniards came with Christianity and overwrote everything, they had a pantheon of gods and goddesses as well. And there's a moon goddess named Mayari, and she has a brother who's the sun god. So that mirrors Greek mythology, right? So how does that happen, right? So how do Filipinos have a similar motif of a sun and moon, brother, sister, god, goddess, right? So it's interesting you bring up Doink, the bald monks who are extremely spiritual. So it depends on what you mean by extremely spiritual, right? I don't think that religion or institutions get to have a claim on what it means to be spiritual. And spiritual, mystical, magical, etheric, those realms, like who gets to control yours? Who gets to say that you aren't spiritual? No one does. You get to say that, right? But it's funny you bring up the bald monks that wear the orange, right? Because the orange represents sacral chakra, and sacral chakra is all about sex. It's all about that juiciness. It's like the drive, right? So it's almost like those monks are stuck in that level of energetic understanding. Yeah. I only ask because you're talking here. Yeah, it's interesting that I'm not quite sure about there must be a reason why they all shave their heads. I think it must have something to do with vanity, if I had to guess in that belief system. Hey, Spider Carnage, welcome. What was I oh yes, the gene keys. I wanted to talk to you guys about that. let me just speak about it. Have you guys heard of the gene keys before? A lot of people talk to me about human design. I'm not a big fan of human design. I feel like it also built on astrology, but I don't resonate with it as a language system. So I look at astrology as a language, right? It's a way of interpreting the cosmos and where we are in cycles of time and in cycles of evolution as humanity, and interfacing that all together with you as an individual, as a player in the beautiful game of life, right? So the gene keys, you can just go to genekeys.com, actually. It's like practical wisdom. I wanted to get into, oh my goodness. This is just selling the gene keys. I don't want to sell the gene keys to you because I hate the selling of spirituality. I have such a big gripe with spiritual entrepreneurship. Like breath work. Okay. When I learned how to breathe through working out and lifting weights, because you need to breathe in time with, like, you want to exhale with effort, right? You don't want to hold your breath when you're lifting up a heavy deadlift. So inhale, just like with a punch. Inhale, exhale with the effort. So that's my version of breath work. But to sell a whole system and get certified in it, I'm like, oh my gosh, please. Okay, so gene keys. I know they say human design, but I think it's more astrology. Gene keys history. I wanted to speak about that because the story about how it became to be is it's a code book. Human design. All right, fine. I'll read this one. Unless human design is gene keys, because I don't know much about human design, so I could be misspeaking. And I will talk about this too as well, because I thought gene keys were human design, so I was like, I don't know, blah, blah. They oil up their heads for maximal spiritual resonance. Actually, Android Boyfriend, I heard that they also do, like, like when you shave, and when you shave anything, like when I shave my legs, right, you're opening up the pores for a bit. So you could, like, rub some oil that had some special sauce in it. Or special magic goo on your bald head, and then it makes you more receptive to downloads or, like, light codes or something like that. Hold on, let me just check on my little phone. Don't you be licking. Okay, gotcha. I got you just in time. Leave it. Okay, so the gene keys. So human design. I don't want to know about this in relation to human design. Okay. Richard Rudd developed the gene keys in the 1990s after a spiritual awakening. He studied the I Ching, the Kabbalah, and other spiritual traditions to develop the system's principles. In 2002, he published his book, The Gene Keys: Unlocking the Higher Purpose Hidden Within Your DNA, which outlines the system's principles. So, I just want to know the gene keys itself. Because the human design came after, right? And astrology is ancient, right? Hypatia, all that was like that's already astrology. So I consider myself an astrologer first, and I prefer to consider that my base understanding of the cosmos, because I like to look at this as personally, like the planets all relate to gods and goddesses to me, and each of those gods and goddesses have stories associated with them. Through understanding those stories, you can understand those essences, and once you understand those essences, you can use that to interpret yourself, right? So oh, bomb chicka wow wow, my dose of of feeling good about myself. Thank you. Hold on. I'm just gonna, my puppy has, like, I have to do an Epsom salt bath for his paws because I feel like the city and the salt, they're not great on puppy's paws. So you gotta, like, buddy, I know, here, I'll just redo your sock in just a sec, okay? Okay. All right, friends. Yes. So the gene keys explained. Okay. Here. Once you study the gene keys, your life will never be the same. Okay. Okay, yes. So, the gene keys are a download or transmission received by Richard Rudd during an unexpected spiritual awakening experience he had in his late 20s. Richard Rudd worked with the founder of the human design system, Ra Uru. Okay. Okay, so he had a different download. Okay, I shouldn't misspeak about human design. I'll look at that a little bit later. I shouldn't judge it. um Oh wow. I love conspiracy stuff, you guys. I love all the conspiracies. So I tell people, they're like, "Oh, I'm an atheist. I don't believe anything." I'm like, "I'm the opposite. I think it's all true. If you have enough belief power in it, that's what makes it real, right?" Um, American Gods has this really cool episode. I think it's the end of season 1 where Odin, right, and Shadow Moon go to Ostara's like house, and Ostara is like the goddess of Easter, right? And like she's got like 5 Jesuses hanging out. You've got like a Mexican Jesus, and like a really like white looking Jesus, and then like a more Arabic looking Jesus. So, and she's like, yeah, it's a Jesus for each people's belief in Jesus. And she's like, I'm just here because people worship Easter eggs and stuff. And so at least I still get some worship to make me real. American Gods, great show. Watch it. Gillian Anderson is amazing as media. I didn't like the later seasons, but season 1 is pretty good. Sky Machine. Oh yeah. Okay, so hold on a second. My puppy. I can't have you licking your paws while I'm doing astro readings. Okay. I'm gonna just. You want to say hi to your fans first? Let's do that. Let's say hi to the fans. This is my puppy, Mr. Wolfie, and he's got some like allergies to the snow and salt here. So, I gotta wrap him. Give me 2 seconds, friends, and then we will finish off this read. So, my big message to you guys is to look into whatever you have resonance with, right? To know thyself. And then once you know yourself, to thine own self be true, right? And I spend a lot of time denying myself, like my own psychic abilities, my own intuitive tendencies, because, and that's why I would say that I was like, yeah, I was like maybe a high functioning alcoholic for a while. And I think that oftentimes many of us fall into alcohol when you have heightened psychic tendencies, right? A lot of Pisces people, I find, they like if you don't realize that your gifts are your gifts, you'll medicate it, right? Because you're like all of these voices, right? Or however way you are interfacing with that realm. Like for me personally, I get just feelings, like, the full body tingles, or if I'll say something, and I'll like hear a ringing in like either my right ear or my left ear. And it's just been a lot of work for myself personally to understand my own way of getting valid, like, oh, okay, that's what that means, or your feelings of deja vu, or like your hunches, or it just like I just know when like my friends need me to. That's been a big thing that I've always been able to do. Just like, if you need me to come pick you up, I don't care if it's like 2 a.m. If you're in trouble, I will come get you. Don't stay in a place that you feel like you're unsafe. I'll come get you, right? But I think it's important to have those friends that you can call like no matter what, and to be those friends if you are the type of individual who is capable of offering that, right? Because I think that is so needed right now. Like, what does it take to be a superhero, right? I want to be a superhero. That's all I wanted to be when I grew up, and I think it's time. It's time to do it. Okay, so let's do a reading. I wanted to do a card reading today. And so if you're watching this on YouTube, I have my deck pulled up as a screen share because that way you can kind of see what is his sign. Oh, Pepper the cat and Dino. So, oh my gosh, Wolfie. His name's Wolfie, named after Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. So Wolfie for short. He is a Cancer. He's a Cancer, and he was actually born the year that me and hubby got married. So he's turning 10 in June 21st. So yeah, he's a solstice baby, like a summer solstice baby. So he's my my superhero of my book. He's a time traveler because in my story, there's not a lot of wild magic that we can use for time travel. So we only have enough magic to send back Wolfie to 2012. Okay, Wolfie, I need to just wrap your foot. Let's just do it. I know you hate it, but until I do the salt, right? That reminds me, I have a show that I'm starting. I wanted to call it the Dog Mom Diaries, but I don't think it's exclusive just to dog moms. I think it's like Dog Parent Diaries. Yeah, the Dog Parent Diaries, where we talk about our escapades with our fur babies. I've learned a lot about love and caring through being a dog mom. He's been a lot, my little Wolfie. He's very, he's got literally a heart on his back. He's very in tune with us. And I talk to him when we do psychedelics. And he's got a beautiful voice. Okay, so let's go into the card reading. And we're going to, I have, as I said, the deck showing my Shadowscapes deck. So when it comes to tarot readings, how should I put this? I was doing a reading as Cortana the other day, and someone came into the chat, was like, oh my gosh, you're reading the devil's cards. I'm like, okay, listen. You gotta stop with this. Like, how are we supposed to fight evil if we can't even talk about it? Do what I mean? Like, when you have something that, like, oh my gosh, we get triggered by just a symbol, instead of being like, okay, well, like, can we go into, like, what it means and then context? Right? Like, for example, droughts and floods. If you, like, rainfall, is rainfall good or bad? It's only depending on whether or not you need it, right? Oh, hello, Octacos. 6969. Basically Cancer signs. You're yin and yang, right, in the name there, buddy. Okay, so my Shadowscapes deck is my oldest deck that I have. I have another deck as well, and when it comes to anything that you're doing, everything is divination, you guys, right? Hey, Alan. Yeah, fun rave last night. I meant to do this last night after the rave, because the DJ music set was supposed to be the pre-show to the comic book read, and I was going to read you guys this, which was Jean Grey, and it's teenage Jean Grey, and she basically rejects the Phoenix. So in that timeline, she brings Jean Grey back to life. So it's like this interesting play on, like, going back into the past to affect the future, because Terminator deals with this kind of stuff. And, like, as we're going through, like, the idea of, like, time and time travel and that, like, what would it mean to time travel in real life? Like, what would that feel like in, like, tangible 3D land, right? Movies try to show it, but it's a matter of, like, what does we have, like, that's why movies are magic, right? So let's play and let's try it on. So that's what I'm trying on Jean Grey, and I'm doing something very psychic and intuitive as Jean Grey, because it's like using the cosplay and my set and to, like, amp up my own psychic senses. Because, like, think about it, that's why X-Men have a school, because it's about learning how to use your powers and like how to get good at it. So let's do a read. Wolfie. Oh my gosh, he got off his sock. Hey, no. You know that you're not supposed to. I just need to do a reading for like 2 seconds. Okay, give me 2 seconds, guys. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do a reading for the collective all of everybody. And my future self time traveled to interrupt my comedy self's tea with God. It's so funny you say that, Resolutions, because Promethea has a beautiful comic book scene about the end of the world, right? And okay, you're coming back with me. We're gonna do the reading together, Wolfie. Such a handful these days. Okay, so in Promethea, there's a scene where it's the end of the world, and there's a scene where she's like looking at you and she's addressing you, and it's like, oh, and she's by the fire, and she's like, oh, good, it's you. Come here, come sit by the fire. And then you're just like, what the heck? What's going on? It's like, oh, don't you know? It's always ever been just you and me by the fire. I was telling you a story, right? You wanted a story about everything you could be, everything you would be. And so I told you a beautiful story, and then you're like, I thought I was reading a comic book. But it's that kind of idea. Wolfie, okay. One more time, I'm going to put your sock back on. Okay, bye. No. They're waiting for me, and you are being such a handful. Okay, you know what? Let's do the reading, the one card reading, and then we'll end it, and then we'll do your Epsom salt bath, because you are due. You are due, buddy. Okay. Okay, so dog mom duties call. We'll save that for later. I will be back a little bit later. I'm going to be Batgirl or Oracle later, and then Batgirl maybe. That's the vibe they gave off as well. And they were the president of the universe. Yeah, I've had a vision too where, like, I don't know if you guys have ever felt this, where you're like, you go through like this like tunnel, this like light tunnel. It almost feels like the umbilical cord, or like or maybe like, you know, right before you come into like the birth canal, I guess. So you're like firing down the birth canal, and you end up in this place where it's almost like this like council of like guardians, and you're in like a circle and it's in this cosmic place. Some of the images from comic books show this off really well, but it's like you give a report on like how things are going in your galactic sector. Things are really messed up here. We need a little bit more magic. Can you give us a little more? Any to spare? We just got to turn the earth on, you guys. Got to turn the pyramids on. We got to do things at the right time of the moon and during solstice. We're so out of alignment with all that. As soon as we start to do that, we can really make magic happen. We just got to try. Okay. So you guys, I'm going to give us a collective card reading for the energies of right now, considering the chart reading of right now. Wolf, you're being crazy. We have the 8 of Pentacles. Ooh, I love this. It's like the spider's web, Indra's web. That's a beautiful way of, in Vedic cosmology, the way they perceive of the universe, right? Or even like a diamond reflecting all the realities off to all the other infinite diamonds. And so this idea of weaving a web. So I do have this even Charlotte's Web. I love that story too. This idea of weaving your new role. You're weaving whatever that new fantastic superhero role is for our new earth energies happening right now. There is this concept of a new day, a new dawn, a way of sloughing off the old ways of being, but also giving respect to what came before in order to forge the new. So that is like, I get the 8, and 8 is also the number of the sun, right? It's the Ouroboros. It's this concept of like, we should not be living in a world of scarcity. We have so much abundance around us, especially in Canada. We are so resource rich. We are so blessed, right? We are actually so blessed to be alive. We came here by choice. We came here to guard this earth, this planet, and to have fun with our brothers and sisters here, and also just give respect to it. Leave something for our next generation. all of that kind of good stuff. And so there is a lot of energy, I think, at hand right now in order to do that. I'm going to pick another card as a clarifier just because that is a minor arcana. Oh my gosh, Wolfie. Hey, you hear your dad's done, huh? You do. Okay, we've got, oh my gosh, I'll take both these cards because they both came out. I love the Hierophant card. So this Hierophant card, it looks like a tree, right? Let me pull it up on here as well. Where are you, Hierophant? There you are. Hierophant, I'll read this out loud. I would like a story, says the salamander to the Hierophant. And what would you like to hear, little one? The words come slowly. Each syllable seems to be drawn from deep within, pulled up from an individual rootlet. The salamander is used to it and patient. I want to hear how I may fly. I was content, and then one day Caterpillar said he was sleepy. He slept for a long time until I nearly forgot him. Until yesterday, a moth came to laugh at me. He laughed with Caterpillar's laugh, and with Caterpillar's voice he said he had a dream of wings. Ah, the sonorous exhalation seems to go on forever. Ah, little one, I am sorry. Caterpillar has that blessing. He may sleep and dream of flight. He weaves a silken ritual around his body, and then comes the day when that vision transforms him. I wish to dream of flight too, says Salamander very seriously. Well, you may dream of it, says his friend and teacher. I will not be the one to deny you divinity. But I know, just know, that your own divinity shall be attained along a different path than Caterpillar's. Do not relinquish your dream, Salamander. The meaning: the Hierophant's roots are deep-reaching, entwined around secrets and traditions and the ages, ritual and ceremony, pursuing knowledge and deeper meaning, and this idea of creating something around the dream world. And that's how ritual and ceremony are formed, right? Through a dream. I had a dream of wings, but perhaps your way of flying is different, Salamander. Perhaps you grow up to be a dragon, right? And then we also have the Knight of Swords, probably one of my favorite knights. And typically means this energy. So this idea of truth, and swords also have like the double-edged sword. So truth oftentimes doesn't come, like, people don't necessarily like it. Like Batman, for example, when he's delivering like truth bombs, you know, like the rest of the Justice League's kind of like, oh, well, you know. Okay, so this is all about like, there's like this whole concept of riding in, providing support. What I told you guys about like anchoring your dream world, right? Holding on if you've been going through a challenging time, because help is around the corner. Back up on a plane that we don't necessarily quite understand, but through understanding of self, we will gain that further enlightenment. All right, my friends, I'm going to drop because my friend Wolfie here, I need to put his sock back on. Thank you so much for joining me as we kind of looked at gene keys, this way of interfacing with the cosmos in a different way through our stories, through archetypes, through the magic within the archetypes, and how we communicate with each other. I bring about the observation of nothingness itself, and it's not always welcomed. You know what? People don't necessarily like that concept of the void, right? This idea that like, because that's the thing, that's the lesson of the sacral chakra, of the two, of the relationship, right? For you to have a union, you need to have separation, right? If you're all in like the one and the mono, there's no need for that. You're already just like one thing, right? So you need to have separation in order to have union again. So it's kind of like, you know, that's the whole fun of life. And I think that's the beauty and the dance of it, and the hide and go seek and the games that we play with each other as infinite beings living out a finite existence. All right, my friends, until next time. Oh, good. I'll see you guys very soon. I'm gonna do much more astrology in the daytime, and of course, comic books late night, and of course, some DJ dance divination sets always. All right. Have a beautiful one, my friends. Until next time. And remember, it takes true courage to be exactly you in this game of life. So please do be you because the universe is counting on you. But no worries. I got your back. Until next time, superhero friends. All right, Wolfie. Time for Epsom salt.